I don't return fruit. Fruit's a gamble. I know that going in.
Are you a gun enthusiast? Love to shop for guns, but are also looking for friendly service? Well, you're in luck. Top Gun Supply is the friendly gun shop. Staff is very knowledgeable, happy to see you when you walk through the door, and can assist you with all your gun shopping needs. Top Gun Supply stocks a wide range of firearms, such as Ruger, Beretta, Sig Sauer, HK, and LWRC. So stop on by at Top Gun Supply. Top Gun Supply, the friendly gun shop, a proud sponsor of the Armchair Quarterbacks. Armchair Quarterback Radio is AFC South Country, all NFL season long.
They hand it off Fournette. He's driving, and he's in for the touchdown. Wow!
Drive starts at the 1 and looking for a little breathing room, and they get that and plenty more. Derrick Henry still going. Stays in bounds. He might go. 99 yards for the touchdown. Unbelievable.
2nd and 10. Empty set. Walk downfield, and that is Hilton again. 1st and goal. Ebron, what a year for him. Eric Ebron, touchdown goal.
Slant caught, touchdown. Marquise Lee, and he punched the ball into the stands. Deep, and he's got it. Keelan Cole. Touchdown, Jacksonville.
Stay locked in to the AFC South on Armchair Quarterback Radio.
World air quality is at an all-time low.
But hey, that doesn't mean you can't have a little fun. New from Mattel, it's the greenhouse gas gun. Do you hate the snowman next door? Use the greenhouse gas gun. Want to piss off an entire room full of tree huggers? Use the greenhouse gas gun. There is simply no end to the amount of fun and respiratory disease you can have with the greenhouse gas gun.
Armchair. We are the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
He only has 3 rings.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Get caught up with the big stories from around the world in sports in just a few minutes. It's Take Me Out to the Ball Game today, weekdays. Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube. Baseball, football, basketball, whatever's trending in the world of sports, it's on Take Me Out to the Ball Game today in just a few minutes. It drops weekdays, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, as Wake Up Y'all is ending. Take Me Out to the Ball Game today on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel.
Take me out to the ball, take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the ground.
Good morning. Welcome to Take Me Out to the Ball Game today. I know the clip, the sound bite says 9:30, but we are going to start doing this live. Not going to do it recorded anymore. It's just too much a pain in the ass, and that's why I've got so much junk going on now that football season's here. We're going to have a lot more content and a lot less recorded stuff. So it's going to go live. So realistically, if you want to be able to know the shows are coming on live, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and then of course get the alerts when we come on live. Usually these lives reappear on YouTube, I don't know, like around 8 to 10 hours later, something like that. So if you do miss it live, you can always go to either our Facebook or our Twitter feed, and the link will take you right there. So there's that. All right. So we'll do that starting today. And then the Braves country, beginning of every series, including today, will begin normally 10 a.m. Eastern, but because it fell on a Monday today and we're doing the catbird seat with the Yankees and Rays and Red Sox at 10, we're going to do Braves country at 9:45. All right, all that out of the way. Let's get into what the hell happened over the weekend. We have a lot of stuff that happened over the weekend, including Major League Baseball. You look at the standings right now, and they are Well, it's getting interesting. It's getting interesting in a lot of areas. Let's start with the American League. Tampa Bay, they went in and they haven't had a very good weekend. They've lost 2 in a row now. They're only 3 games in front of Boston, 5.5 in front of the Yankees. Conversely, the Yankees beat the White Sox over the weekend, both of their games. They won both of their games. The Red Sox smoked the Orioles, and Tampa Bay fell to Minnesota the last 2 games. So that's where you have it in the AL East. We'll get much more into that on the Catbird Seat. Like I said, 10 a.m. Eastern this morning with Timus and Angelo. All right, Chicago White Sox. Where are we at on that? They're still cruising in the AL Central, up 10 games. That thing's a wrap. AL West, still about where we were. The Houston Astros are 2.5 games in front of Oakland and playing decent baseball. Oakland's been hot of late, but lost yesterday as well as Houston. So 2.5 in front. Seattle, you can stick a fork in them for the AL West. They're 8 out, and I don't see them jumping 2 teams with a few games to play. All right. In the wild card, in the AL wild card right now, it would be Oakland hosting Boston. But Oakland and Boston are in essentially a flat-footed tie. Now, Boston's 1 game back in the loss column. They've played 2 more games in Oakland, so you got to take that into consideration. The Yankees are charging hard, 2.5 back. And the Toronto Blue Jays are in it with 4.5 back. Now, Seattle still has a pulse in the wild card. They're 5.5 back. Once again, they're going to have to jump a lot of teams to get in there, so we'll see how that goes. The National League. Let's take a look at the National League as a lot of things went down in the National League over the weekend, including the Atlanta Braves sweeping the Washington Nationals. Now, why is that a big deal? Because while that happened, Philadelphia lost 2 of 3 at home to Cincinnati, and the Mets got swept in their own building by the Dodgers, and most of the games were routes. So this is the way it looks this morning. Atlanta is a 1-game lead, has a 1-game lead over Philadelphia. The Mets are now 2.5 back of the NL East. We talked about this before, earlier this month and last month. Your realistic chance to get in the playoffs if you're in the NL East is to win the division. Wild card's going to be a hard get, but we're going to get that in a second because it has gotten a little more interesting. Now, Cincinnati, they were the team that took 2 of 3 from Philadelphia. They're still 8 back in the NL Central race, but they are hard charging for the wild card. Giants, Dodgers, still 4 games apart, as the Giants did drop 1 over the weekend. They now host the Mets starting late tonight. I believe 9:45 first pitch, something like that. And then the Dodgers, they host the Pirates. So there's a lot of pressure on San Francisco, and this is why we knew when the Mets were going to have to play the Dodgers, the Giants, the Dodgers, the Giants, this was going to be a rough road because you've got 2 teams that are playing tit for tat out there in the NL West, 2 very good teams, and you have a very bad offense in New York, good pitching, but very bad offense, and you're going to try to go toe-to-toe with arguably the 2 best teams in the National League. The Padres, by the way, are now 10 games out of first place. They did get Tatis back yesterday. He played right field, and he just went the hell off. He had 2 home runs, I believe, 4 hits altogether. Now, the wild card in the National League looks like this. We got the Giants, the Brewers, and the Braves all leading their division. So right now, if you're looking at the wild card, the Dodgers would be hosting San Diego. We talked about this last week. San Diego's got a rough road in September. The Padres are now only 2.5 games in front of the Cincinnati Reds. That is a big deal, my friends. St. Louis Cardinals, out of nowhere, a 6-game winning streak. They're 4.5 back of the wild card. That's a big deal. And with the slight pulse in the NL East, Phillies and Mets are 5 and 6.5 games out, respectively. Realistically, right now, I've got to cut it off at Cardinals, Reds making a charge at the Padres, because the Dodgers have a 6-game lead over the Padres for the first wild card. So they're good to go. But I do give a slight chance to Philadelphia. Not as much the Mets, just because they're not playing very good baseball. And there you have that. That's your, we always do this on Mondays, kind of catch you up on what's going on in the divisions. All right. What else is going on? Real quick in the NBA, the Clippers are acquiring Eric Bledsoe from the Memphis Grizzlies, and they traded away Patrick Beverly, Rondo. This is a deal that is definitely, first of all, it saves the Clippers $30 million in luxury tax and creates an $8.3 million trade player exception. So look at that. They could be doing something down the road with that. But then also, Clippers are trying to figure out what they're going to do with Kawhi Leonard being out all year long. He may come back at the end of the 2022 playoffs, but that's a big question mark. By the way, remember Udonis Haslem? He signed for a 19th season in the NBA. He'll play with the Miami Heat. Good work if you can get it, y'all. And real quick before we hit the history, Penn State transfer Will Levis named Kentucky Wildcats starting quarterback. So Kentucky's going to go with Will Levis from Penn State, highly touted coming out of high school. We'll see what happens there, but big news in Wildcat country. All right. On this date in history, it's hard to believe this is 101 years ago. I've heard this story my entire childhood growing up. So I did some research on it and wanted to know what I was talking about. On this date in 1920, Ray Chapman, if you've never heard his name, you should know his name. Ray Chapman of the Cleveland Indians dies after being hit in the head with the baseball. Now, he would die the next day, but this is the date where he was hit in the head. New York Yankee pitcher Carl Mays hit him in the head. It was not intentional by all reports. Here's what was going on at the time. It was a dusky day, very, very low lighting, very little lighting, excuse me. Of course, this is before you had all the bright lights in big fields. And they did not change out baseballs very often. And it cost Ray Chapman his life. It was described as an earth tone baseball hit him in the head, meaning they had used it all game long, which was commonplace back then. They'd use it all game long. By the time you got to the end of the game, it was so hard to see the ball, A, and B, the thing was so soft it didn't travel very far. This is why it was considered the dead ball era. This essentially ends the dead ball era. And by the next year, it's demanded by rule that any ball that gets dirty, gets scuffed up, et cetera, has to be replaced. So Major League Baseball makes that rule. They loosen the purse strings, and the rest is history. You have an incredible explosion of home runs, et cetera, after that. A lot of it had to do, they weren't winding the ball tighter back then. It had to do with the fact they could see the ball, and the ball was new. And the pitchers, they were scuffing them all game long. By the end of the game, by most reports, you're basically dealing with a spitball. And so all of that went by the wayside on this date in 1920. Ray Chapman finished with a .278 batting average, 17 home runs in 8 seasons in the Major League Baseball. Doesn't sound like many home runs. You're like, how in the hell was he? This was the dead ball era. This is the point. 364 RBI, a pretty darn good hitter, to be honest with you. 30 years later, and this was used to finally get it pushed through. But 30 years later, Major League Baseball would start using batting helmets, mandatory. When they set the cases to argue that they needed to start wearing batting helmets. Ray Chapman, 1920s death was one of the first things that they went to battle with. And this is, this before you had a players union, et cetera, but basically they had to make it mandatory. A lot of players didn't want to wear it because you know how athletes are. Remember the whole thing with Antonio Brown a few years ago. He didn't want to change his football helmet because he felt comfortable with it, but they did it for the betterment of the sport. Ray Chapman, by the way, 2006 Indians Hall of Fame. He was finally put in. And the day after that Ray Chapman died, which would actually be 101 years ago tomorrow, the Cleveland Indian teams wore black armbands, starting that tradition. He's the only player in Major League Baseball history that has ever died because of something that happened on the field. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern. Take me out to the ball game.
Take me out to the ball game.